I saw this. All right, we're live. All right, tēnā koutou katoa, everybody. Welcome to the Waitai Coastal-Burwood-Linwood Community Board info session. Today we have Parks in-house maintenance, mobilisation, introduction, community parks rolling renewals program for 25 to 27. Good to go ways to get to school, and a public excluded item about major cycle route. If you'd like to join me for our opening, whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā tara ki tai, e hea I ana te atakura, e tiro, e hoka, e hoka, tihei, right, thank you. Apologies for absence from Alex Hewison and Kelly Barber, and apologies for lateness for Councillor Johansson.
Member Baker will probably be joining us by Zoom.
And Member Baker may possibly be joining us by Zoom. All right, we'll just note those apologies. So now we've moved to Parks in-house maintenance mobilisation introduction. You'd like to join us at the end of the table? You're welcome to pull up a few chairs if you want to assemble information.
We're always moving plant and equipment.
Yeah, right.
Thank you very much, everyone. So it's. Thank you. Kia ora. Al Hardy, Manager of Community Parks. I have with me your local team for Community Parks Maintenance. Before we get into introductions, just wanted to say it has been a while. This is our first quarter, and you've had such a busy schedule that it's taken a little while to get around to you. So some of the information that I normally have been sharing at these introductions has been, you may already know. So just bat me on, fast forward if you want. But as you will recall, some time ago, Council made the decision to bring all maintenance in-house. Our contract was expiring 1 July. And so we quickly had to mobilize with plant, equipment, and locations for people, and to basically be based out of. The Pages Road Depot was where we had our teams that were looking after our cemeteries and our selected garden and heritage parks previously. So we expanded there with more plant and equipment and people. And we also rented a place out on Cable Street to service that side of the city. We wanted to cut down on emissions. We wanted to make delivery of service more efficient. So that was the reason for 2 depots. We thought about, do you do 4? Do you do 2? Do you do 1? It always came back to 2 depots kind of basically servicing north and south in the city. So these guys work out of the Pages Road Depot to service the parks and reserves, drainage reserves and cemeteries in your area. Yeah. And I think we should probably just introduce each other right now. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Arrett, and I'm the operations manager based in Pages Road.
Thomas Robinson, Coastal Supervisor.
Hey everyone, I'm Peter King. I'm Burwood Coastal-Linwood team leader.
George Woodham, and I'm the Linwood Supervisor.
Lee Higginson, Supervisor.
So these guys, thank you very much. They look after roughly teams of about anywhere from 5 to 8 individuals that do the mowing, line trimming, the gardening, in all the parks and reserves. We have, and you must have heard of this before, through some of the council meetings and whatnot, but we've slanted a lot of our new equipment that they're using toward electric, just to reduce emissions. We've brought in some of the first hybrid large tractors to do the bulk sports field mowing across the city. And that's not done by these guys, but it's actually done by us, the specialist sports team through the Metropolitan Parks team, which was kind of born from Hagley Oval and the stadium. So they're not only are they've got some really neat new kit and some new people. So their team's grown as well as the community parks team. But they're getting out there and hitting things that we couldn't really resource through the contract. So just to give you an example, the contractor probably the sports fields with two tractors and large mowers, and now we have 5. So if you've seen some of your sporting, you might not be hearing from your sporting clubs because they're a little bit happier now, I think, with the amount of resources that are going out that way. Are there things that you guys might want to hear more about? We'll just open it up for questions.
Sure. Celeste and then Joe, I think.
Thanks for coming along.
Yeah.
So we're good to meet you and see you in person. It's really helpful to put some faces to names. And it's also great to hear now that we're moving to in-house, how we can build more of a hopefully local perspective on what the priorities are in terms of
Absolutely.
So my question is, in terms of, it's a relatively new transition, so I understand you'll be getting things going. So obviously things aren't perfect at the moment, but I've had a number of inquiries around garden maintenance, which you probably will be aware of. What is the current schedule for maintenance in some of our key parks, such as Thompson, Lafferty, and along the foreshore in particular?
So thank you. We are finding our way. The overall concept with the in-house teams are to have smaller teams that are dedicated to a select number of parks, so that a lot of the people that you see here may live and work. They kind of have an affinity for areas where they're working, their backyard, so to speak. And the concept, I guess, of these smaller teams would be to have them treat their areas kind of like their backyard. Right now, though, we've just hopefully seen the worst of, although it's going to rain pretty soon and it's a lot warmer. So we may not be through spring flush, but right now the priority that we're focusing in on is mowing. I guess it's all hands on deck mowing grass right now to get the result that we need for parks and reserves. The gardens do slip a little right now, but we'll have all this resource to basically attack that when the grass growth slows down. It started to slow down over here, and you guys have started to schedule in some gardening already. So you're kind of right on the you're getting it. So the idea with the contractors, we only paid them to do a set thing. So it was a measure for value contract. They had to, in order to get paid, they had to do a certain thing. And they often didn't really weight the resources right. So we want these guys to be on the ground, task them with making the right decisions, so that if don't go out and garden if it doesn't need going. Don't mow if the grass isn't growing. Then you can put more resources into gardening. So it's just month 3. I think give us a little time, and you'll see a big kick, I think, in that.
So just to understand that further, would you say that it's reactive approach rather than a scheduled maintenance? Because my question would be, if we're doing reactive maintenance, then it's based on complaints, and then you get to the point where people are getting frustrated before you react, which is a thing that I would be concerned about going forward, because we're hoping to lift the standards rather than letting things slip and then responding.
Yeah,
That's the feedback I've had.
It's not reactive at all. So we have a priority schedule right now. Like I said, it's mowing right here and now, but we shift that seasonally. so that, you know, as the grass comes off the high growth, then we'll focus the priority on gardening and what have you, and the different disciplines there. So we have a planned program, but we also can be more reactive than the contract model.
It's like a
So,
flex.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So we're outcome focused.
Yeah.
So to answer your question just broadly, what we want is a good overall outcome, but not a prescribed go out and mow when you know it doesn't. You know, if you schedule that months in advance, it may not be efficient because it may not actually need it by
So
the
in
time.
terms of the living service for say gardens, what are we measuring against if there isn't a schedule in place to kind of be proactive? I'm trying to understand how we explain that to the public, saying there is a plan, but we don't have a schedule.
There'll be a lot of the same key performance indicators that we had in the contract that we're using for that. But yeah,
Okay, I'll hand it over, but I've got a couple more questions.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've only scheduled for a couple more minutes, and Joe's got a question and Greg's got a question. So-
Excellent, thank you.
So so we'll go Joe and Greg, and then I'll finish off and we'll have to move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you been working on more cohesion between units with boundaries of what you maintain?
Absolutely, yeah, because thanks for bringing that up. A lot of the parks maintenance and ongoing services are already delivered in-house, you know, like the Botanic Gardens, regional parks. It's allowed us to be a bit more nimble and share resources. Obviously, the contractor wouldn't accept any of our plant and equipment. They couldn't. So this is a much more fluid, and it makes it easier
I'm
to
just
deliver.
thinking like a little example, which I've been on for years, is along New Brighton Road on the riverside, and you've got Cockane Reserve, and then there's apparently a section which isn't the reserve, and they would do one part and they'd leave the other. And I noticed that the mower's been down there, but it's still been left.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering if that is something that hasn't been looked at yet. I'm
So-
trying to sort that cohesion out.
Yeah,
Or
depending.
whether it's just that someone's going back to weed eat it because it's on an angle.
Yeah, so we have other units with green space like land, you know, the roading.
Yeah.
So it could be a timing issue with them. I
Okay,
know that we were working quite closely and picking up little bits of assets that made sense, you know, when we were out there. We've worked collaboratively.
yeah, for
quite a
me,
bit.
it just would make sense to have to do it all in one instead of like, okay, we're doing that little bit, another unit does that, and another unit does this.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
It took some time previously when we switched contractors back in 2015 to learn what those little boundary points of interest were, and you know, make sense of them. So, but we still and we worked quite closely with the roading contractors that mow grass through City Care to pick those up. So, and I'm sure these guys will do that as
yeah,
well. I
because
tasked
the
them
red
with
sign
doing
looks
it,
really
yeah.
good on the other side of the road, and then you go across and it's,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Final question from Greg.
I'll start with a thank you so much. But we're in this team, particularly in the build area. I know following the Facebook page in the Preston area,
Mhm.
there used to be a lot of complaints about grass length and things.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
I have not seen a single thing on there in the last 3 months.
Whose is that?
Nowhere.
Take a bow.
Yeah.
It's nothing, and it's not my doing, but the
Yeah.
structure allows
So
it. Yeah,
It's been really good to see the difference, and seeing kids still playing in some of the parks, whereas usually through spring the last couple of years, I've seen the grass got too long and kids weren't able to get out there at the end of the football season and things. So that's been really awesome to
that's
see
good.
that. And as I say, see the drop off in complaints in the local Facebook pages is really good. So
That
yeah,
is good.
definitely making a big difference. I really appreciate that. And the only one is just a personal one is if you can, the week just before the 10th of November, if you can do the Martians domain. I've got a community day I'm running there, so a big whole corner of Preston's and Preston's Park Drive, that'd be fantastic.
Write it down.
So yeah, so 10th of November is a Sunday, we've got a big carnival sort of
Yeah.
going on there, so if that could be a bit shorter, because I know last year we struck quite long grass and people.
So that's kind of the reactivity that we want to foster. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the date of Wilson Gala, G?
Yes, Saturday, yeah.
Excellent.
It's a little, it's in a little bit.
We're out of time, but I do want to say, like, please, if don't underestimate the value of your work in terms of the vibe of the city and how important, like, it's the little things, in the sense that if people see the stuff that you do being taken care of, it makes people just feel better about where they live. So yeah, I'm really, really rapt that this has been brought
Thanks, Paul.
in-house, and just, yeah, please, we want to have a really constructive relationship in place, so, yeah,
Thank you.
happy to see you.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Thank
See you.
you.
All right, we now have the community parks, so this is Friday and Al, you can't go out, you have to come back.
Will you wait for me?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Ready?
Yanni, do you want me?
Your name's not Tim though, is it?
Tim.
Oh, Tim's online. Hi, Tim.
Gone but not forgotten. I didn't go on about the parks change structure that actually put Bridie into this community parks development role, but if you guys are interested, we can clarify that.
If we roll this quickly, if you've got any of those maintenance questions, I might still be able to have time to answer. All right, thanks for having me, everyone, today. So Bridie Gibbings, Operations Manager for Capital Development and Community Parks. So today I'm just here to talk about the rolling renewal packages. I know I came here last year with another woman to talk about it. So this is just an update, just to bring to light what we've got planned in the next financial year and the 2 years beyond that. So if I think I have a little PowerPoint there just to talk about, just give you an overview of what a rolling renewal package is. So, oh, look at that. I've got all the control in the world there.
You are in control. Not the,
Check the side that it's on.
so the red one
Button
turns it on.
on side.
On? No, on. No, it's on. There we go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so what is a rolling renewal program? So what we're tasked with doing in parks, making sure that our assets, we strive to keep them at a good or higher condition asset rating. So a rolling renewal package is just, it's a capital works package where we take all of our assets that are in a grouping and we renew them, or we either replace them or we give them a major sort of upgrade. And that is an effort to try and prolong the lifetime of that asset, and to keep, well, like I said, all our assets at a good or higher level. So yeah, they include replacement, major refurbishment, and or component replacements. Yeah, like I touched on before, how do we determine what's renewed? So our asset data team have screeds and screeds of information about all of our assets. We base our program on looking at the lowest asset condition ratings for all of our assets, and then we package them up. As you know, our asset data is only as good as information that's in there. So although we do create a program off of that asset data information, we also use the field staff, the guys who came in here before, information from you and information from the public to help prioritise that program. So just a really small example of what it sort of looks like. So this is just an example of a green asset renewal last year. So on the left-hand side, you've just got a regular garden bed in a community park that's just got some bare patches in it. So the guys on the right-hand side, they come through and they just do a lot of infill planting, and often they'll do mulching or refresh that soil, take out any old plants that may be dying and pulling that asset condition down. Again, there's another one just full of weeds, dead plants, so they come through, they mulch, and they infill plant. So that's just a couple of examples of what green asset renewal is. So now if you pull up the agenda to that rolling renewal program. Yeah, sure.
Does that include, because there's quite a lot of the roadside berms, and does that include any of those, or are those all in transport?
The majority are, unless they're in front of a park.
Yeah.
It's kind of like your house, like, you know, your berm in front of your house, you're kind of responsible for taking care of that. It's just the same sort of applies for us.
And I've just noticed, and happily noticed that there's been quite a few of those that have been, including the parks in my area.
Yeah. That
have been done, and but it's just really nice, because it feels like it's been a while since there's been a lot of the renewals like that, and it is a really good feeling to go through and be like, oh, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I know the transport guys, I can't take all the thunder there because I know that they've done quite a lot of work at going through and mulching a lot of those roadside berms they're responsible for too. Yeah. Right, so the does anyone have any questions, any other questions about that?
Thank you, that's really interesting. With the green asset renewals, it's really cool to see the pictures. In terms of like, I'm just looking at the list here, is there a way that we can sort of input into this in terms of like the prioritisation?
Yeah.
What's the process for that?
So following this meeting, so anything that's listed in FY25, which is what we're currently in, as you can see on the screen there, it's highlighted in red on the left-hand side. So those ones are locked in. So some of them are either already done or they're, oh, that's actually playgrounds, but that's okay. So that's all locked in for this year. It's either completed or it's about to be completed or be carried out autumn next year. The next row along, you've got FY26. So that's what's being scoped at the moment, and we probably already have plant orders underway for that. But that's not to say that we can't have a look at changing that in and out. So FY27 and 28, definitely we can move those along. If you feel like any of those sitting outside in those years need attention quicker than then, we'll definitely look at that and we can move those in and out.
So to just give an example, Brighter Beach development, I assume that's the hot pools area around there.
Yeah.
Because where there's so much other development happening around there, that when, you know, things change. So whether at some stage when it's appropriate to give that, whether we can sort of have that conversation of going, if we're going to do the work, let's align it with some of the other stuff. So that would be potentially a priority for me, based on the feedback I've had from people within the community. So,
following this, any of the information, any ideas or candidates that you have, if you could pass them on, and then we'll take that and we'll look at that. We can have that conversation.
Joe, and sorry, I hit Yanni, then Joe. Sorry.
Thanks. We've just started the engagement on the children's playground strategy. So I guess what I'm struggling is to understand how that thinking, because when we got briefed on it, Linwood was actually the one that had the greatest need. But when you look at what's been spent, you see that actually it's got the lowest amount of spend. So how are we working out where the needs are? And you know, one of the playgrounds I just visited this morning, like it seems like it just needs some fresh paint on the play equipment. It doesn't need actually a renewal. I've watched the kids play there for years, and they're happy with the merry-go-round and the seesaw and the swings. It's not in the slide, like it's not. There's no one crying out for, you know, new equipment.
Yeah.
But all the paint is sort of coming off, and it's really obvious that it's not been sort of maintained. So I just was trying to understand a little bit more about prioritisation based on need, and also a bit like the earlier presentation around the mowing, not just done on a regular schedule because it needs to be done, but actually done because it's, you know, there's a demand for it.
Yeah. So in the initial stages, when they're planning, they're drawing down those candidates from the program level, they will use that asset condition rating, which, like you said, doesn't really take into account actually what do the kids like using, and actually is it in a really bad condition. With playgrounds, they also take into account the age of the item. So sometimes they'll be so old that they may not be safe anymore, even though they're structurally kind of safe. They might have finger entrapments, or they'll have other aspects that make them unsafe, that we need to sort of balance as well and have a look at, you know, is this really a good piece of equipment, safe piece of equipment for our kids to be playing on now as well. So I know that they throw that lens over it sometimes as well, the planning point. But they do, when they come to doing play renewals, they do a full assessment, not just an assessment by a ranger, which we do all the time, a full assessment before we actually put it into the program as well. So if there is a candidate that's up here where you think actually no, it's just a lick of paint, when it comes to doing a full assessment, that will actually tell us that actually that doesn't really need to be there. It can be pushed out, and we can push that maybe another 5 years, and we can bring other ones in.
Do you want our, sorry, I'm come back to you, Annie. Do you want our input?
Yeah.
Around those kinds of things?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, we do.
I guess.
One thing I guess we need to consider with playgrounds, the condition rating often relates to how safe that's going to be. So we're happy to entertain any ideas that you've got about prioritising and pulling one playground forward and another, or pushing another one out. We do need to just make sure that if what we're doing there is safe. We don't want to get in a situation we're going to have to close down a playground because we've prioritised another playground over that one.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
It's usage as well, you know, what your communities are telling you that you want the emphasis on, I think is the most important thing, really. I mean, we have this, and if no one was at the wheel, then the condition ratings and the age and those types of things would just take over for asset renewal. But we really want to hear from you guys.
do you have like a list of CSRs related to the, like, is there any way that you're measuring the people's feedback on?
Yes, we do collect. We also collect the ticket information as well, and complaints that we have about about play equipment. Yeah.
So how can we see the more detailed list of like what's not on here and what condition things are? Because I would feel a bit awkward putting things forward if there was some, you know, more detailed information. But just looking at this list, again, like if I look at FY26, I think we were advised that our new playground may not be being done. It's going to be rephased possibly to pay for other things. And also actually, I mean, just the feedback on that one is that should be seen as a really good community development opportunity. It's in an area that doesn't get much attention, hasn't had a lot of connection either through community board or through council for a number of years, and it's in quite a high socioeconomic area of deprivation. So, you know, it looked like there might be other opportunities. I'm just wondering if at Thompson Park, same with Bromley Park, you know, there's opportunities when we do sometimes the renewals, actually more, you know, to engage in a wider way.
Make it a bit broader.
Yeah, and also give people the opportunity to look at what the different options are rather than just put what was there before, but actually feel part of a process. And if we need additional budget, how do we track that off?
Yeah, we are doing a little bit of work in the background about that at the moment.
Right.
Yeah. About getting a little bit of engagement around playgrounds a bit more when it comes to renewal as well.
Right. So what would be the process around us?
I don't have a set process for that at the moment, but that is something that we're working towards.
Jo?
Thank you. I've just noticed from last time you came to the board to this time, there's quite a few changes in the schedule, and some have been taken off completely.
Yep.
Are they still going to be looked at in the future, the ones that have been taken off?
Yeah, there's two reasons. There'll be two reasons. Either a range has probably gone and done some infill planting anyway, because it could be vandalism, fire, and so that would mean they've been done, or there was something else that was in a worse condition when they came out and did a bit more of a detailed scope.
Okay. Most of the green asset ones are okay. The hard surface renewals have actually, there's quite a few of those that doesn't get off the schedule. And I'm just wondering, when it comes to the hard surface renewal, I thought that South New Brighton car park would have been quite an important one to get done sooner rather than later.
Okay.
We hear quite a lot of complaints about that car park.
Okay. Yep.
And then there was Anzac Drive Reserve, Bridge Reserve, Jack Hinton Reserve, Sea Eagles Reserve, all with hard surface last time, but not in this time.
Yeah, I have to go talk to the project manager responsible for that to find the detail of those individual projects.
Okay.
But we
So I
can do
just
that.
send those straight via email.
Yep.
And the same with the play space renewals, there was, last time there was Aston Reserve and Evergreen and Royal Park. But they don't seem to be anywhere this time, and I'm just wondering if they have already been done.
Again, I'll have to go ask the PMs
Okay.
for that.
And
detail.
with the green asset renewal, FY 26 pages reserve, which part of pages is that?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, unless I don't know. Sorry.
Sorry, and then it's got Shore Park, and I'm wondering if that's the little park by the toilet in Shore End.
Yeah.
It is?
Yep.
Excellent, thank you. And on FY 28, you've got a whole lot of places listed in Burwood, and I think they're actually coastal. The
Purpose,
and
yeah.
Rossay and Titirangi.
Okay, they'll be near a bound, yeah, okay, that's good to know. We'll
Yeah.
we'll amend that, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Every now and again, we do strike something that is in the former ward.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
does it?
No, at least.
We want to see a little bit of equability around what we're doing with all the wards too, though, so it is still
Or
important.
what we're
To us.
make it look equal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
We've got a lot of parts.
All right,
Yeah.
You do.
Greg,
Couple of things I noticed on there, Amelia Rogers Reserve was listed. At one stage, part of the Waitai network was a stormwater basin was looking like possibly going in that same space.
Yes, it's still technically a community park, though, so we would work with them on that one.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, it just seemed, yeah, definitely something to discuss with them, because it would be pointless in doing that and then having it all dug out and put in
Absolutely.
later on. Also regarding Waitakere Square and Robin Playground, both of those are quite planned sort of green spaces at the moment. Will they be tied in with the urban forest before they do that? Because it would make a lot of sense to work both programs together rather than planting something then going back.
Yeah, so what we tend to do is, as well, it's a really good question, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. We do work quite closely with the tree team for the urban forest plan. We try to tie in the parks that they're going to be coming through and doing a landscape plan for tree to put trees and tie in our green asset renewal program as well.
Yeah, there's two particular ones, so Waitakere Square and Robin Park.
Yep.
And the other one I had was Coalbird Reserve, with the talk of the rowing club shifting to the other side. That would make sense to hold off on doing something there if the roads are right next to it and that's changing. So it's probably just another one of being mindful of what's happening around it rather than just rushing in and doing it. Well, I haven't been to it to have a look, but it just seems logical to hold off if there's a lot of works going on in the same space.
Okay, well, that's good.
For the rowing changes.
Yeah.
Right. So this and then Joe.
So much easier than putting in email. With you just talking about a severe question around the urban forest plan with other adcock. Is the reason that didn't get aligned because of just was the rollover?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And is it really? Will the plans, do they come, where do they go? Like in terms of the green asset renewal plans, like just use the Foreshore as an example, because that's a formal garden. Is that correct? So around the.
Oh, yeah, so if we were to use the old contract speak, it would be what they'd call ornamental. Yeah.
So say, that one, because it's got a lot of visibility and also we have so many visitors, like 250,000 people coming here, that one to me is quite a high priority in terms of visibility across the city. That reflects quite, a lot on how it's looking. Can we see that plan if it gets prioritised and developed? Is that something that will come to us, or is that just creating extra work?
No.
Well, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with us sending through like a memo with that plan and just saying, "Hey, look, this is coming up. If you've got any suggestions, can you let us know before we go ahead?" It wouldn't be a formalised approval. But we can circulate that with you.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I was told that because those types of gardens are treated slightly differently, you've got more scope for what you can plant there. And we've seen that some of the plants are sort of not quite fit for purpose, and also some of the landscaping around there is not.
Yeah, we are looking at that because it's not, you're right, it's not fit for purpose, a lot of that
Yeah,
in most species, so we need to look at that and address that one.
yeah, cool, thank you.
Joe?
Sorry, is it weekend?
Yeah.
Yep.
Harold Henry Park. And you've got down for footpath or car park through there. Is there a reason that we're doing that?
I would have to ask our planning team a bit more detail
Because that's
about
right
that
in the
one.
middle of the red zone in Bexley.
Yep, yeah, I know, I don't know, the detail about that one, but I can ask about that one. It's out in 2027, so it's a wee while.
It seems like there was, on the old plan, Withels Island Reserve was recommended to do some hard surface renewal, and that path is actually used quite a lot. And it would actually be better to do that path instead of a path in the middle of the red zone. Thank you.
Any further questions? Yanni?
Do you want us to give you feedback today on priorities, or are we able to get them more detailed information so we can kind of look at it? I wasn't sure.
Any information that you've got now, if you could send it through, I've got more questions, and then if you need more detail, ask us for that detail and we can go and get that.
Okay, so like Cutler Park is one that the community have been raising for a long time, and it'd be good to, in my view, it's kind of one that there's a community demand. But again, a bit like
What activities?
the Cutler Park.
So it's just had had a bunch of trees planted on it.
So it's
But it is rather lacking in any kind of play equipment, right?
Yeah, and
the
condition of the field's been a bit, and I know there's a high water table in Wilson, so it's quite tricky.
Yeah, it doesn't drain very well, yeah.
But like also, I think it kind of speaks to the point that, in terms of community, like needs change, some of the ones that I look at, here and I go, are there still kids in that area? What was it? Playground, for example, that maybe the demographic has changed.
Which playground?
Oh, I'm just using it as an example. I'm not saying that I know for sure. I'm
Right.
mindful that there's a lot of social housing there. There's quite a change in the typology. So, if there's not the families and the children, and I guess we've got new demographic data with the census around where we've seen an increase in certain ages, and that hopefully there's a way that can inform some of the priorities as well. I think the other thing that would be helpful is us to actually see the budgets that are attached, because it's quite hard to get feedback without knowing like what's the budget. Mindful of that big discussion we had on Thompson Park, for example. So whether that was possible or not.
Yeah, they're very, when they're at this stage, the budgets are they're very much an estimate. It's not till we get to more of a detailed scope that we can actually assign true budget to those.
Right.
But there can be an estimate provided.
Yeah. Okay.
I suppose the estimate makes sense if you're trying to push something forward and swap them around. If you've got no idea that one's 30,000, one's 50,000, sort of not a like for like swap.
And the only other thing that like Dex there was quite keen to understand what was happening with the dog park. And is there a dog park section? Yeah, because there was an issue with the grass. I was told it was going to be replaced.
So I actually met with the group there about 3 weeks ago, and we addressed a whole bunch of issues down there. So we're working through a prioritised list with them. So the barley grass was the main issue for them.
Right. Is this just the dog group?
Dog group.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So we've sprayed out that barley grass, and we will go out again probably in a couple of months' time to hit anything that was missed.
Right.
There was issues between the big dog park and the small dog park, dogs getting through. So we've fixed up that fencing. There's a few sightline issues, so we're taking out a few flaxes as well in the car park. And there is also the Bexley Park development, the sewer line. There's a sewer and the water, potable water's been a big issue for the dogs, owners out there. So that is being done this financial year as well.
Is there a way we can just get maybe a memo, because I think I've got questions in, but it would be good just to get that kind of. And maybe the board would like to meet with the stakeholders as well. I think that was 2 years ago. Yeah, because it was quite tragic. I mean, obviously they had the murder there. So, and then in the LTP, we're cutting the funding to Bexley. or deferring it, which personally I kind of disagree with. So anyway, and the cemetery one, I just, again, like, hard to give feedback without knowing what's happening in terms of the plans, but it would be good at some stage if we could just get an understanding of what if we've got the master plans for each of the cemeteries, how they're progressing, what's not getting done because of funding or what maybe's changed.
Okay.
Right, we've got a few more, got questions from Celeste and then Joe. And then I've got something from Tim.
No, I just wanted to say, to send all questions and feedback
right.
to me
Okay.
by next Friday.
On
So
this, yeah.
by email, and then I can collate those and send them to Bridie, so then she can read everything and then gather the information for you to share to provide any additional feedback once she can provide the estimates and stuff like that. Just because we're going a little bit.
Okay,
It's like,
And someone mentioned
so I think,
something.
so if I've got everyone's feedback in one place, then it's easier to respond to, and then once Bridie's got back to us, then you can have another opportunity to provide additional feedback. If that's okay with you.
Absolutely, yeah, that's great.
Right, Celeste.
Just finally, in terms of talking about budget, obviously across the city, it's all different. So, you know, with the main intensive park was what, 60 something hectares? So it's the second biggest park. How do we, budget wise, make sure that there is sufficient resource? Because when we think about things on like a, you know, I don't know quite how that works, but is there sufficient resource to make sure that the bigger parks are also getting managed appropriately? Because I just don't see how that we don't have visibility at that kind of level. Because it's a bit like Banks Peninsula, it's such a big area to cover. It's a bit like that out this way as well. We just have a lot of spaces that I don't envy you, your jobs. You know, it's the second biggest park out there, right?
Yeah.
It's a big job.
Yeah, it is, and it's there's quite a few. It's complex. And there's quite a lot of different types of use in that park, and it's does have its own management plan. However, it is very old, and probably needs to be updated. To get new management plans is very expensive, so we sort of have to follow it, but also follow what the community currently want as well. In terms of budget and how much is assigned, previously in our contract, like Al said, it was a measure and value contract. So the more asset you have, the more it costs to maintain, and that's all budgeted for at a high level. Those budgets haven't really changed in this new structure in terms of maintenance OPEX budget.
I see. Okay, so that's helpful to know. And in terms of that management plan, there's no plans to update in the short term. That because of the cost to do that's huge amount of work.
It's a big they basically don't write many. The last 5-10 years I've actually never seen a new management plan for any park.
Final question from Joe.
Yeah. Sorry, just in regards to Thompson Park, the senior module, is that additional to what was just installed?
I believe so, but I'll just double check that. I don't want to put you wrong there.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much. And yeah, we will get back to you via Cindy for any questions that we have.
Yeah, so if members could send them through to me by next Friday, so that gives you enough time to have a stuff.
Thank you. We just look at what the engagement process will be in consultation around them as well.
Can you email that? Because we just got, yeah. That counts as a question. Yeah, but it'd be great. I really put to get a sense, but we need to. But you feel well? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, can we just have a couple of minutes before we go on to Ashley?
We're back,
What was the ticket for?
So,
we're back.
we're back, don't worry. Because I car accident that, on Keys Road, and there should be some yellow lines either side of the entrance of Rapidi Domain. Wanted to lodge that. All right, hello.
Hi.
You're here to talk to us about good to go ways to get to school.
Yes, so I have presented, so kia ora, my name's Ashley. I'm a community travel advisor for schools and I travel demand management team. So my role mostly is to kind of liaise with our schools. I don't want to call myself a middleman, but kind of connect them in with our transport and kind of wider council teams instead of them trying to find the tree guy and the berm guy and this person to do this and that person to do that. They kind of come to me and then I kind of help find those people and then bring those responses back to them. So it's not so dismantled all over the place. So we do have a new school travel program now called Good to Go. So you're my last board to come and talk to, so the best for last. But we so this is pretty much just so you guys nothing. Just so you guys are aware when schools are coming to you and things like that, what is kind of there and on offer for them, and you can kind of send them our way. Cool. So a big thing for schools, as it is for most things, is the cost of being able to sign up to programs, to be able to engage in certain things. So the cost for schools to engage with our program and our workshops and everything is nothing. So there isn't that kind of cost barrier that some programs do have for them. I don't sit in the office and do this alone. I work internally with a lot of people from a lot of different units, but we also work externally with a lot of different organisations that you can kind of see up on the screen. So we work quite well nationally, kind of sharing of resources and seeing what everyone else is doing. If we've got a problem somewhere, asking someone else if they've got something that they've done that's helped, those sorts of things. We also, it's not just about transport, so students that kind of are moving actively, whether it's the whole way to school or a couple of blocks, things like that, when they're moving through that green-blue space, you know, it helps their mental health and things like that is kind of what the research shows us, and also kind of around that being active and all of those kind of good things, which I'm sure you're kind of all aware of. So this is a nice picture of what we offer school, but I'm going to talk through all of these, so I won't kind of talk about what's on this page. So our Good to Go Ways to Get to School program, so this has been designed out of our school travel plans. So we were finding that we, with a lot of schools, we do the school travel plans, they take a bit of work. We have 143 schools across Christchurch. Really, there's only 2 of us, so being able to kind of do a school travel plan and keep them updated and keep them engaged with schools was kind of not really working. So we designed this program with principals and teachers to kind of a way that we can have ongoing support for them in ways that they can touch base with us and kind of connect in different ways. So our commitments for schools signing up onto our program. So for our primary and intermediate schools, it's participating in our March Walk Away to School Week event, which is also Walk Away to School Week this week as well. I'll talk about that later, which we have around 75% of primary and intermediates and Christchurch already participating in this. So it's not a big barrier for schools to be engaging. Receiving our termly newsletters, participating and distributing our annual school travel survey. And then for our secondary schools, it's very, very similar, but this is a space that we, over the next year, will be kind of exploring a lot more now that our primary and intermediate is very up and running and trucking along very successfully. We're now kind of looking at what initiatives and stuff we can be offering secondary schools and getting that kind of off the ground more. So we do have, on the top of my head, about 69 schools signed up onto our program already, and we launched at this around about mid last year, softly and then kind of properly at the start of this year. So it is something that schools have been loving and wanting. So for our registered schools, this is what they, I guess, can access on the program. So we offer extended support throughout the year through lots of different kind of initiatives, which I'll talk about as we kind of flip through. So school travel plans, I think I come to talk to you guys about school travel plans before, but pretty much they're a holistic approach to improving road safety and kind of encouraging active modes for those who can and things like that. If we're doing any kind of major transport works, we normally wrap in a school travel plan around it as well, make sure we're addressing the right issues. It's kind of, I guess, in a way, another engagement piece in those, or we do something similar to a school travel plan. So with this, we work with the school community, we create a survey that goes out, we analyse that, and then we go back to a working group with them to have kind of, with those survey results, so it will be like the principal, normally some parents, some students sometimes, depending on the school, if there's any neighbours who are really active, things like that, sometimes police, sometimes NZTA, it kind of depends on what the goal is around there. But yeah, we work through that survey, kind of pick out the pieces. Sometimes people are really helpful in the survey and just write Pages Road. And it's kind of unpacking what is it on Pages Road, like where can we help, what is it like, because it's not very helpful to just be like the entire road. It's like, okay, where do we start? So we kind of work with them and, you know, we're able to bounce ideas off them and stuff like that to help inform when we kind of go on that. And then we kind of normally sign that all off. And then I guess what kind of has happened in the past is a lot of people pop it on the shelf, they kind of forget about it, we normally email them. And I guess that's why our program's been created. So instead of just signing something off and then being done with it, we can kind of have that continuous engagement. So our annual school travel survey, we first launched this last year, so we're only in our second year of running it, but we're starting to build that understanding about travel patterns across Christchurch, how students are moving around. So we send schools a nice wee email, which has a wee copy and pastable for their newsletter, to kind of say, here's the annual survey, a wee bit about it, and a link to fill it out. So one school representative from each school fills it out to kind of tell us how they've been finding the program, how that's been going for them, or how we could be engaging with them more. And then students, parents, and caregivers are able to tell us about their journeys to school. So we have our Scooter Skills program. So this is we contract this out to Primary Sports Canterbury, and it's been super successful. We're actually almost fully booked up for 2025 already. So we're starting to look at how we can grow it a wee bit more, hopefully for next year. But it's been really well enjoyed. So this is for our year threes to kind of help. They're starting to use their scooters getting to school. I'm just creating that situational awareness for like sneaky driveways and, you know, making sure to hop off your scooter when you're crossing over zebra crossings. You can't just zip across, things like that. So, yeah. In class workshops, so we have 2 staff that work at the moment in class in schools delivering these workshops. So we have exploring active transport. So we have a junior and senior version. Our junior version kind of focuses on what is active transport, what does it mean, and then starting to teach them about stop, look, listen, which is something that the police kind of helped us with. They don't really have capacity. They're kind of dwindling down in numbers of how many school community officers we have. So we kind of help and try and fill the gaps there to make sure children are still learning that stop, look, listen. And then our senior workshops, we step it up a wee bit more and start talking about different road users and why people use the road in different ways, like who you might see out there. And we start talking about the hazards and safety features that you'd see out on the road, and things like that. And they go out and have a look at the school gate to be like, oh, what's out there at our school and stuff like that. Then we have a Safer Speeds workshop, which was created by NZTA, that we've just slightly adapted for ourselves. And this teaches kids all about how the faster a car's travelling, the longer it takes them to stop. So they kind of do that through like a PE and maths exercise. And then they kind of have some discussions about why there might be different speeds in different areas, and stuff like that. So it's quite cool, and very well loved. We've got a How to Catch the Bus workshop. So we created this with Environment Canterbury. we know lots of students are starting to take the bus when they go to intermediate or high school. If they're catching a public bus, not all of them know to flag down the bus, to tap on their cards, to, you know, it's a whole nother world when you kind of start doing that. So this workshop is based all around you know, bus etiquette, how to use the Metro Journey Planner online, you know, which buses should you take, all of that sort of stuff. We actually just run this at New Brighton Catholic today, funnily enough, while I'm out here, but and they absolutely loved it. It's just kind of one of those life skills for kids to kind of be understanding that. And then we've got a Making a Difference in Creating Change workshop. So we work with leadership groups or interested students within a school. If they've got an issue or a problem or something they want to kind of put out to their school community, but they don't know how, we work with them on, sometimes it's a community board presentation, sometimes it's a video to use within their own school. It's kind of a range of things, but we kind of help unpack this for them. Because not everyone knows how to have those transport conversations, what should and possibly shouldn't be said, and some of those, and we bring in police to feature in their videos and things like that. So that's also another really big one that gets booked up quite a bit. So we have walking school bus workshops. So we offer these workshops as kind of information workshops, so people are able to kind of learn about what walking school buses are, what they would expect if they sent their child on one, what they'd expect if they were volunteering and things like that. And then we kind of leave it in the schools' hands. We find the most successful ones are the ones that are set up by the schools and their communities, but we help them with any route assistance and ensuring the routes are safe and things like that. But yeah, we kind of work with them on them. So under the program, when a school's on the program, if they email us about parking enforcement issues, we can send out parking enforcement and give them our new parking resources that we have for schools. Under kind of how we were operating, P3 parking restrictions like yellow lines, anything like that, we would normally kind of make them do a school travel plan to make sure they're appropriate. But in most cases, they can be appropriate. And so the traffic engineers now just go out straight and kind of look at those, and then we bring them to community board and things like that. So we just do that under the program instead of a whole school travel plan. But things like traffic lights and care crossings, new footpaths, things like that, as you guys are probably well aware, have high costs to them typically. And so we normally wrap a full school travel plan around those just to make sure we're getting the right areas. And it's not too loud of a voice, just being like, oh, that's the intersection, when actually it's one a bit further down the road and there's not kind of a bit more of a network thing going on. Normally we have a look though when they come, that they don't just come to us and go, oh no, we can't do that. We'll always have a look to see where there's possibly other projects going on and how we can tap into those too. So that's for schools registered. And then all schools, regardless if they're registered, even though almost half of them already are, we have March Walkaway to School Week. So this is a hugely successful event that we hold. It's held in the first full week of March. I've already started planning for next year, so it seems like everything's going really quickly, but we are seeing registrations for this grow year on year on year. So we had 105 registrations for 2024. We do now partner up with Selwyn, Waimak, Huranui, and then for the last one, the West Coast actually joined in with us on it. So it's kind of almost turned into a region-wide initiative that regardless, I guess, we know a lot of people commute from Selwyn or Williston into town to work and things like that. Everyone's kind of aware with what's going on. Yeah, but it's mostly for primary school and intermediates, but we also have kindergartens join on as well, as they really see that value of their feeder schools are doing it, the bigger kids are doing it. So it kind of starts it while they're young. This year we launched a new event, which is October Walkaway to School Week. So I've had many requests to have one every single term. So we've decided we have launched one this term to kind of see how it goes, how they actually find running multiple in a year, because I think 4 in a year might be a lot to just start off with when they've just been doing one. But we're kind of testing the waters on this. It's a wee bit more stripped back than our October one. It doesn't have as much social media presence, for example, and we're putting a bit more ownership on the schools to kind of encourage their community. So we're testing to see how that works, but so far it's had a lot of engagement. We have about 75 schools signed up onto it, which is much more than what we thought would. We sent 2 emails to say, hey, do you want to sign up? And that's the kind of response we get. So yeah, we're really excited, and hopefully once the review's done, we'll have October Walker to School Week next year too. So we partner in May with Break for Road Safety Week. So this week is just all about road safety. The message, the kind of header for it normally is road safety heroes. So we're talking about like our road patrollers that are our road safety heroes because they're out there doing the mahi, helping their kind of school community get across crossings and things like that. But yeah. And then Rail Safety Week. So this is in August. So we partner up with TrackSafe and Kiwi Rail to, this year we ran some workshops within our schools. We offered that out to schools with kind of railways nearby or schools who have just been interested because their kids actually might be going near a railway for whatever reason. Maybe there's one in their community or wider community. They were really successful. We'll look to do these again next year and hopefully bring in Kiwi Rail a bit more again and have some presence of them there. World Car Free Day normally runs on the weekend or school holidays. But we put this out to schools because a lot of schools will sometimes put school holiday challenges and things like that out to parents. So some of them will put this out, can you not use the car this day in the school holidays? Or they'll move it to a different day in September or use it as an initiative kind of at a different time of the year. So it's just kind of an idea for them to be able to use. You're probably well aware of Cycle Safe. So that's our Year 6 training, our cycle training for Year 6 students. It's hugely successful and very well loved throughout the city. We also have Crash Bash. So we are currently in a review stage of Crash Bash and seeing how it fits moving forward, but it's a collaborative road safety production for years 11 to 13. And it's done with the Court Theatre, police and ourselves. So ourselves and police help write the script, kind of inform the messages that will be passed on, and then police in the Court Theatre have a touring show that kind of goes around the high schools kind of on there. So you can check these out, any past ones, on our website as well, any of the past shows they're always filmed. So other resources we have bike maps, or you can read those. But yeah, we have a lot of other things that we can just have for schools for them to have there. So another one we now have is I could have brought one with me, but a parking around schools flyer that is a much more visual, kind of cue to parents around the different types of parking rather than just saying don't park there. It kind of explains whys in some cases and what kind of restrictions there are. I have new data for this, but what's really cool is the schools that we have worked with, and some of these, it's varying time differences between the befores and afters. But, we have seen that kind of mode shift happen within there. We also won an award earlier in the year for our Good to Go school travel program for how quickly pretty much it's been picked up by our schools, how successful it has already been. And other councils are kind of reaching out to us of like, how do you run this? What do you do? And kind of unpacking all of those like nittier-grittier details. So it's definitely kind of something that I guess we're not doing alone. We're kind of actually leading the way in this space, which is quite cool. And again, doesn't cost anything for schools to engage with us. There's no reason they can't email me or shouldn't be engaging with us. But yeah, then any questions?
Kelly?
Yeah, thank you. I just, as I kind of observe what's happening around some schools, the impact of intensification seems to be having a massive disruption on people's ability to safely sort of access. So I just wondered if there was any work being done around the land use planning around schools to ensure like, some of us have had proposals for things that would generate a lot of traffic right next to a school.
To be fair, you're not a planner.
No, I understand that, but you're doing
Yeah.
amazing work on so many different levels and getting really good information about what's happening on the ground.
Yeah.
So I guess I know council's actually looking at some sort of local spatial planning. And I'm just kind of wondering if there's been any consideration of where schools
So I couldn't speak to it directly, but we do feed this information into our like transport network planning team and things like that. They kind of have all of this and they come and chat to us when they've got stuff going on around school. So I wouldn't say it happens every single time or at every single development, but typically when there's big developments, we'll be hot on it. But yeah, it's an increasing thing where.
Yeah, so it's increasing congestion around schools basically, and lack of space for things like pick up and drop off.
No, not always, because we have our P3s typically outside of schools. And I guess if a school's facing some of those issues, that's where we kind of talk about, like park and strides, can parents be parking a wee bit further away, walking in, where can walking school buses actually just walk to the local park, and parents kind of pick up from there. We already have, schools who don't have that intense, some of those schools that have intensification actually don't have as large problems as the ones who do, because those parents are kind of aware, oh, I know that everyone parks in the street, so I park down here and walk down, whereas the ones that have lots of space there, they all drive and they all park because they're like, oh, well, I should get a park because there's no one around here. So, it can be.
The other question I had, like you've got lots of schools that you're working with. I was just interested if there were any sort of gaps in terms of geography of the city or communities. Like, is there obvious places that are not participating that we could sort of encourage through our meeting with principals?
Not really, no. It's, I guess, we're just kind of taking them on as they come in, but we are kind of actively encouraging them to jump on. And now we're kind of moving into a stage, especially in our primary schools, is going to meet with them directly to kind of explain the program, because some of them kind of see it and they're like, oh no, a survey, like I'm going to have to create a survey. And we're like, no. So we're just kind of unpacking, we've probably got the easy lot. Now we're getting it a little bit harder and it will get like that. But I've had some schools that are like, no, we definitely couldn't do this. Like walk a wheel, like we're up the hill, it will be really hard. And I was like, okay, like, well, if that's your big thing about, stopping you jumping on the program, maybe we'll look at, wavering walk a wheel and seeing how we can do a different active transport promotion for your school. And funnily enough, for October, they signed up for walk a wheel. So I just didn't talk about it with them. And they've been loving it. So I think sometimes it's just those one-to-one conversations with principals now. Some of that's what they need, is that people kind of, talking about what we can offer.
Have you done any work with Linwood Ave School and Te Waka Unua?
Yeah, lots. Yeah, they're both, I think they're both on the program actually. The full list of schools on the program is on our school travel page as well, if you did want to have a look to see if any particular schools are on there.
Yeah, there's currently some works going in on Smith Street to like, big part of that is to try and make it safer for, because it connects to the park and everything.
Yeah, and once that's kind of all open, we kind of touch base with those schools to kind of be like, oh, it's all open, like, here's a great connector now. And our project teams, so I sit on, I guess, I don't just do this, I sit on a lot of project teams. All of our transport projects, I pretty much sit on to kind of talk about the schools that are nearby, making sure we're connecting in, seeing how it's going to impact them, making them aware. Some of our schools, if we're closing roads outside of them for even just small amounts of times, or, maybe it's just the parking but that's where their truck gets in to drop off school lunches or whatever it is. Making sure that the school is feeling like there's going to be an impact. It's roadworks. It's unfortunate, but there's hardly ever going to be no impact due to roadworks. But how can we make sure that, the lunches are still getting in easy, and what times do they arrive, and the managers on site, contract managers, making sure that that's kind of all working for them. So.
Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you, and congratulations for winning the award. Well deserved. This is a survey that's really interesting in terms of like you share it internally with other teams. Is any of that accessible by us in terms of like understanding what some of the key themes are?
Yeah, it can be. I would say kind of the data is kind of just growing at this stage. So even when we were looking at 23 to 24, it was kind of like, oh, there's not much difference. But then it was like, oh, actually, we're not really showing anything yet. We have just kind of broken down, I did a lot of stats the other day, and kind of broke down all of our school travel plans that we've had, and grabbed motive for every single school that we've got that data kind of happening for. So we can break it down to a school base instead of just
And just finally, in terms of the survey, who completes the survey? The principals and the parents?
Yeah, and students. Yeah.
Because it sounds like that would be quite a important group of people to hear from, but we probably don't hear from that group as much as we'd like to, especially younger people, in terms of how they travel and what the barriers are, because you know, you only need to talk to a young person and you say, you know, how you get to school, and they can give you information that would be really helpful to know.
Yeah, so we encourage a lot of the schools, especially our high schools, for the survey, for students to fill out the survey, you know, like in their whānau time or their tutor time, whatever they're kind of, so that there's like a set time and we can kind of get good feedback, but it varies per school, and things like that. So we're just trying to, you know, see how we can bump up those responses and stuff.
I'll be interested to hear more about it, so thank you.
Great.
Just following on from the survey question, are the surveys done at the same time of year each year, or are they done like comparing summer to summer and winter to winter?
No, same time each year. So we run them in May every year. And I do it on the first Monday of May and up until the last weekday of May. So yeah, it's always May. Yeah. And that's just because we have Walk to School Week in March, and it kind of just sits nicely in the calendar. People not being too overwhelmed by the start of school and things like that.
It would be going back to something that Celeste touched on. It would be really helpful to know what the feedback from schools and parents and stuff have been about particular roads and intersections, particularly when we come to discuss them at the board level. We often get kind of a collated version or a something like that where we're not necessarily getting a clear picture of where demand has come from, and it's quite persuasive to us when parents have got concerns.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how that can be made more explicit to us, but it would be helpful.
Well, because I normally, typically when, like especially in transport, I guess our teams are bringing stuff to the board. I've normally fed those details to them, so I can start saying that the boards would kind of like to see more of that. Typically with a lot of projects now as well, we've been encouraging the local schools to also come and do a deputation in person, just to make sure that they're kind of getting their voice heard. They also understand the decision making, because sometimes a decision might be different to what they would want, and they're kind of like, oh, you did that, and I'm like, oh, I didn't decide that. It was them. So yeah, so kind of helping them understand the local government, kind of how it works, and you know how decisions are made, and things like that is kind of part of it as well, and something we're definitely growing now, especially in the transport unit, to how we can kind of encourage that more, especially because then if students come here and talk about, you know, a roading project that they've been concerned about, you know, then when they're like, oh, there should be a basketball hoop down at the park, or there's no net ever at the basketball hoop, or whatever it is, they know that they can come to their local community board and that, like, you know, voice those concerns. So yeah, that's what we're interested in too.
Around civics education, which shows that there's civics education. So it's really good, like at multiple levels, it's really good what we're doing there. Yanni and then Joe.
Thanks. Yeah, just similar sort of thing, but is it possible? I see that Te Awatai is on your list. Are we able to get the surveys from them for the past couple of years to see what the feedback has been?
I've only got one, and that's from when they moved from their old school site to their new school site around the area concerns.
Okay.
But yeah, I can ask. Yeah,
because there seems to be a real division about a number of things to do with like pick up, drop off, cycling, crossing points, speed.
Yeah, so we, funnily enough, I actually met with them this morning, to start kind of talking about, you know, now that they're in their new site, they're a bit more settled, because we did start talking to them about when they first moved back in and things were just, you know, like they were trying to work out how the classroom spaces worked, and, you know, this carpet hasn't come yet and this thing, and it was not the right time quite to be talking about behaviour change and how people were finding some of that. They were just overwhelmed by other stuff. But we've started that conversation now around the infrastructure and how that's working. They're also about to start build on their stage 2. So what impacts will that have? You know, where are kids coming from? How can we help disperse the entrances that people are coming in from? All of that sort of
Council's
stuff.
plan at the moment is to get everyone going off the busiest road. So that's what we're doing in terms of the cycleway. So the cycleway is connecting in on the busiest road.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of us have thought maybe actually it's better to go where there's not so much traffic. But regardless of, given the timing, where council's going to be making decisions about the draft annual plan in the next couple of months, it would be good if we could actually just work out how we can actually work together so that we can try and get as much participation in the decision making and looking at what the, you know, the different options are, obviously, and the trade-offs. And the only other one was Bromley. See, Bromley's not on the list, but we're obviously, as a board, been quite keen on improving transport, you know, lighting in that kind of area around safety.
So they are.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, they're not on that list. They're not officially signed up, but they are signing up. We've had those discussions with them. They're just getting whoever it's meant to be in their senior leadership team to sign up, which is something that we find because sometimes it take a while, but.
Cool. So we're doing engagement now.
Yeah.
So is that kind of being discussed with them around those?
Yeah. So I meet with them on Tuesday.
Okay.
Around all of that. So yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. A final question from Joe.
Yeah, just regarding the cycle safety program.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to different schools, is there a noticeable difference in competence between some areas compared to others? And do most children have bicycles?
It's so I don't work directly in that team, but anecdotally, it's a really mixed bag about what can happen. So we do have a small fleet of bikes that we take with us. So if kids don't have bikes, we're able to use those bikes there, so nobody kind of misses out, I guess. Students who you couldn't really say a higher decile schools, the kids know how to bike. To be fair, a lot of them don't know how to bike because parents drive them around everywhere. It's kind of a trade-off around what happens. But if we know that a school typically has a lower bike usage rate, we'll try and book so that we can have both bike trailers with the bikes in it at that school, so that we have more bikes and things like that available. So
and does that program start from a certain year?
Yeah, so year 6.
Year 6.
So that it runs over, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so don't quote me, but it's normally around 2 days. So they do on-court work, so they take the kids through, you're pretty much making sure everyone can ride, and then the students that can ride are taken out on the road then. And the students who can't ride or maybe can't stick their arm out and balance, more work is done with them on court. And typically on day 2, all students are out riding on the road. There's just occasionally a couple that don't, and sometimes, various reasons why they don't end up. But sometimes we normally always at least try and get those kids even, if it's just for a wee bit and around the block. We normally get their skills to a stage where they can be on the road. They might just not get as much time on the road as some of the other kids did.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
No problem.
Right. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
And we look forward to hearing from you again. Come back. Thank you. All right. Well, we just for the benefit of anyone apart from Tim who's watching online, we're now going into public excluded, which is it's not a resolution of the board because it's